Hey, this is Josh. So welcome to today's Yes, It's Legal podcast with Snapdragon Hemp, lovely Tennessee broadcasting cannabis rules, talking about the new innovations and new things happening in the state of Tennessee. It's been a fun, we've been doing, we're 14, 15 podcasts in or so now. So this has been a real fun adventure, being able to do and talk to folks. And just this last week, the one that we released a few days ago was about the TBI, stuff like that. So discussions that we had, I've had at least 10 people, even some of the stores and some other folks come up to me and just kind of say, what a good shed on the light, because the way it was determined is viewed in a bad way. But there's so much of this stuff that's, perspective, the way you look at it, the way you think about things. So really highlighting that, rules are changing, regulations are happening. We want regulations. We are pushing regulations. We want things to be done the right way in a controlled environment, the same as like a recreational medical state would be for cannabis. As we push these things, there's always pushback from those that, you get so complacent because it's like, oh, you can do whatever you want, you can sell whatever you want, you can have whatever you want. And it's like, to an extent, but then, bad things get on the market and it's uncontrollable. So let's try to control these things. So anyways, it's been a fun few podcasts that we've done, had a great time doing it. And today on the podcast, we have our marketing director, Alec. He is on video chat with us here. Yeah, Alec. So
Thanks for having me aboard, Josh.
Yeah, no, so fun. Glad to have you on board. There's so much in the back end that Alec does, from training and education. Every single person that works at our company has went through Alec's training process, the education that we offer to feel confident when you come into a Snapdragon Hemp store or the Dragon, to leave feeling educated, feeling like you learned something. And that's really like the biggest goal that we have, is because so many consumers are, uneducated, but it's not their fault. There's so much faults out there. There's so much unknown. There's so much, all these companies that you'd want to believe because it sounds good, but they don't do things the right way, versus we feel like we do. So education from us, I believe, is a real important factor on why we, the foundation of our business, education, information. This is the way it's supposed to be done. This is the way that we do it. And this is the effects that you get off of it and all this fun things. So Alex,
know what you're selling.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Alec's crucial in that role. So we brought him on today to discuss some different things, and a lot of good things, a lot of, there's hurdles along the way. Anytime there's a goal at the end of this tunnel that we're trying to fight through or whatever. But it should be a fun podcast today. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll give it to Alec.
Started.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me aboard, Josh. Very excited because I've been uploading these podcast episodes every week. So now I'm on it. I originally wanted to be on there in person when I visited Tennessee last, but I think my next episode will have to be in person. Like you said, education is one of our biggest pillars at Snapdragon, and me teaching my classes it started more so as a passion project to be like, do we know what we're selling at Snapdragon? Does the average employee know what the definition of hemp is? And that's the first question I asked during Cannabis 101, the very first course people get in during their orientation at Snapdragon, is, can you tell me the definition of hemp? And you know how many different answers I've gotten over the couple years of doing these classes?
What's the craziest one? Let's see. We got to hear some.
Okay, so normally I get that hemp is the male part of the cannabis plant. It's the non-intoxicating part of the cannabis plant. I've heard somebody say it's an entirely different plant. I've heard some people say it's the seeds and the stems of the cannabis plant.
Yeah,
be like that. Have a tough time.
Yeah, when we're going across the world thinking about creating, all the different ideas. That's in theory Japan. It's an odd model for Japan, but their hemp in Japan has to be derived from seed or stalk or plant material. But then
you have to have certification to tell them that it didn't come from flower.
Yeah. So it is odd the way that just so many people across not even the country, but the world, regulate things and do things and name things. So it is wild to think that, for sure.
It's really weird, and even by a state basis. But, they're in Tennessee, and I'm a remote worker, but they're in Tennessee. The definition of hemp is pretty clear, and that's cannabis that's, derived from, or it's a product that's derived from cannabis that's under 0.3% Delta-9 THC by dry weight basis. And that's just the definition of hemp. It's just cannabis. And so many people get that wrong immediately as they come to work for Snapdragon or they come to visit Snapdragon, they think that hemp is a different plant. They think it's completely separate. And they think that, oh, this is just hemp. It's not real weed. It's not real.
Yeah, the diet weed and all that stuff. Right,
it's diet weed. And I'm sitting here as somebody in a recreational state. We have medical, we have rec. I order federally legal hemp because it's just better at cannabis. It's more locally sourced from where you actually buy it from, depending on the state and the vendor you buy it from. And it can be way more potent than recreational cannabis. It's also much less expensive, way more affordable.
Oh yeah, for so many of the folks out there that don't know, like, especially in the Northeast and the Michigan areas and stuff like that, like there's it's such a controlled market that, well, here's the person that does the grow. It's one company. It's massive. Here's somebody that does the distribution. A lot of times the same company, massive. Here's the one company that is oftentimes the same that does manufacturing. It's such a controlled market where they get to say, well, this is going to cost this price or whatever. So a lot of times
$60 an eighth. Crazy.
Yeah, 60 an eighth. I mean, it's double what we charge for that. So it's just the idea for sure. So the open market, and that's what we're bringing. The idea of what makes America great, where you can do anything you want, land of the free, land opportunity. The opportunity is the capitalist market. And the capitalist market is striving in the hemp scene, good and bad. Some of the folks do things for the wrong way, but so much stuff that is done the right way. It seems to be that in the future, hopefully, as we talk about federal regulations and stuff like that, somewhat of the idea of what we have created in the hemp market in the state of Tennessee, we kind of transfer over to what the federal market may deem if they decriminalize or if they rescheduled a different that type of idea.
They finally do.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's been taking so long, but I feel like we, along with some of our fellow vendors in Tennessee and across the country even, have created we know what hemp is. We've created this corner of education and just telling people this is your source of federally legal cannabis. You don't have to wait for legalization. And then, of course, like you're saying, there are plenty of people that are just cutting corners just to provide products that, yes, they get you high, but it's probably not in a very enjoyable way, and it's probably not in a very clean way.
Definitely not consistent way, that's for sure, yeah. The gas stations, for example,
flower. Yeah. Get some flour, get some natural Snapdragon products, get some live resin, get some gummies. At least you know that they're lab tested. You know what you're consuming. And you don't have scare stories like, someone had a stroke off of, garage quality Delta 8 gummies or a Delta 8 disposable or HHCO or CBNO, THCP.
It's such a joke when we go into Cindy's gas station now. It's the biggest joke this past probably year, probably since last summer 23 or so is when it started going crazy. It's just the spice market, the HHCO, HHXCH, THX. You just put letters that have T's and H's and C's and X's and stuff in them in any arrangement, and you'll see that on packaging. It's like none of this is real, none of this is verifiable, none of this is testable. These are just made up things, and it's weird. But
that's another thing I teach with Cannabis 101 is how to differentiate, plant-derived actual phytocannabinoids versus synthetic cannabinoids or synthetically extracted phytocannabinoids. I mean, there's a lot of demonization about D8, but at least D8 is more natural than, say, THCP or CBNDO or all of these pluses and minuses that are thrown out there just to get people high. And of course, it does have like an effect.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you go for a natural cannabis product?
No, for sure.
Something derived straight from flower, whether that's concentrate or an edible or a tincture.
Drinks now, even.
Even a drink. Yep. Anything. Why not go with Delta 9 THC, just the OG THC, the father of THC?
Oh, sure.
And just not mess around with these basically research chemicals that are in gas stations.
Oh, yeah. The idea of research chemicals, that's the best explanation for it. I usually refer to the spice market because, growing up, even 15 years or so ago, that was what, if you couldn't get the cannabis stuff, that's what the friends were like, going to the gas station, getting the K1 or K2 or K, whatever, K something spice. And it's like, that's not good for you, So the idea of what we're trying to offer is, this is the way the future is. This is the way that they've been doing doing it for thousands upon thousands of years. This is THC and CBD grown naturally, and it's just, perfect. Perfect, we believe,
Researchers are actually now extracting THCA and CBDA from brewer's yeast, I think.
Oh, wow. Huh.
So they're learning how to genetically alter plants so they produce more cannabinoids. Might be smoking on some rice soon.
That's funny. Speaking of genetics, right? Really that's the new strain. Yeah,
it's genetics.
Yeah,
it's wheat. But yeah, I teach also with synthetic cannabinoids that even delta 9 THC being a really natural, well-known form of THC, that's really just lightly binding to our CB1 receptor. I say it's like tickling it, but K2, spice, flocka, or any of these synthetic cannabinoids, they really punch your receptors. They're doing harm to your endocannabinoid system. They're throwing it off balance. And cannabis is all about balance. Sure. It's all about homeostasis. It's all about feeling good. And in my opinion, that it's just trash. Yeah, a lot of the market is trash right now.
Oh, yeah, that's been my biggest worry about because especially 4 or 5 years ago, as things were coming out, as the hemp industry was evolving to what it is today. People were trying so many different things, and I did want to try as they were coming out some of them, and I have over the years. I've tried most every cannabinoid that you could try, from HHC, THCP, THCO, and all those. I have tried them, but always in the back of my mind is what is this doing for my long-term tolerance? Because it's just something unknown. It's something that there's not been no medical real research on these cannabinoids that have only come out in the past 4 years. It takes a substantially longer time for people to do clinical trials on stuff like this, which has already been done time and time again in the past 100 years with THC and CBD. You can go back to 1920s, 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, where public research.
1800s.
For sure. So it's just there's been so much where medical science has already done a lot of the studies to say that, and the craziest thing is, even in the 60s when the whole war on drugs thing come out, state of California, state of New York, these guys fought against Nixon with the war on drugs and said that we don't believe that what you're saying is true. And they did all their own research. I mean, the mayor of New York, they named the airport after him. Horrible with memory right now, but anyways, the mayor of New York at the time, he was a standout character because New York having some of the best medical hospitals at the time in the 60s. He did a lot of his own research to say that, is this bad? And there was nobody that did. But at the end of the day, he tried to put a fight up against the federal government. But as we've learned, even still to this day, 50 years later fighting it, there's not been a win quite yet. We're still scheduled one. Still, it's just mind blowing. Somebody on the street, somehow, smoking some meth or shooting up heroin, and then somebody's got a joint, and they're technically doing the same thing on a federal level. It's what the fuck is this? So
right.
Feds.
And here we come with federally legal hemp, and it makes almost no sense to lawmakers. It makes no sense to friends and family who are now just wait, what is hemp? What is hemp? I thought it was a separate plant. I thought, like I said in that cannabis.
Industrial hemp
it was a separate plant. Yeah. I thought it was just textiles and stuff. No, you can smoke hemp flower because hemp flower is cannabis flower, and they both produce the same exact cannabinoids. THCA from hemp, same exact cannabinoid as THCA from cannabis. Same exact plant. They're just labeled differently.
Yeah.
That's the main education points. And by de facto, that is cannabis being legalized. But then the federal government still has that understanding of this is marijuana. You also know when they start having an issue with hemp and they're trying to talk about the differences, they'll say this is marijuana. They won't even refer to it as cannabis anymore because even the scientists are correcting them now and saying, no, hemp is cannabis.
Yeah.
Same exact plant. Even the scientists to their left and the researchers to their right are saying this is actually the same plant.
Yeah.
And they're going, okay, so marijuana, and that's where we come in and say, technically, that's still the same plant. It's just a legal classification. We have all our papers in order. We know that the origin of this, it was declared as hemp. It was grown for hemp purposes. But that's all about the legal distinction we need. As you even saw, and you broke down with the TBI, they said, yeah, even THCA is legal. It's even written into Tennessee law that this is legal.
Yep.
And it's just insane because that is cannabis fundamentally. That's your medical marijuana, that's your recreational marijuana, all under hemp being available. I still don't know how we do it, and how we did it to this day.
They
just
we got
navigating this.
Yeah, it is wild for sure. But we got lucky in the around 2018 or so. Most all the other states, they either relied on the USDA hemp program if they were a marijuana state, recreational or medical. Any of their hemp programs, they did not start their own hemp program. They just said USDA, it's your program, you take over. So if you were a grower in Oregon, you wouldn't be really per se in the same Oregon grow program, but you would be under a USDA program. In 2018, and Tennessee was one of only 3 states to have the definition of THC equal to Delta 9 THC. And then by the time 21 happened, Tennessee was the only state to still have that left over. And so we've always been safeguarded the fact that we've grown year over year, 2018, 19, 20, 21, everything that we grew, no matter THC content, everything passed. As long as the Delta 9 was less than 0.3, I can't tell you how many wedding cakes and OG Kushes and all that we would send to the state of Tennessee. And you either get a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Thumbs down, they got to come back and either retest or you got to destroy everything and throw it away. If you get a thumbs up, you're good to sell it. And then at that point, we take that we grew and we send it off to a third-party analysis like New Bloom Labs in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And they say, well, yes, your Delta 9 is at 0.1 or 0.2%, less than 0.3, but your THCA percent is at 22, 24, 26, 28, 32. They kind of go, depending on the genetics or depending on when you did the third-party sample on it, stuff like that. And everything we've been doing in the state's been safeguarded, so we've been lucky. So then 2022 happened. USDA was like, if you're going to be on a hemp grow program anymore, there's some states, like for example, probably just us specifically, Tennessee, that was under our own kind of rules for hemp grow in the state of Tennessee. USDA said if you're going to have a grow program in your state, it has to be monitored and done by the USDA. So the TDA relinquished a lot of their abilities and give it to USDA, but under USDA guidelines, anything THC, whether it be Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, THC, THCA, any version of P or O or whatever you want to say, every single aspect of any version of THC has to be less than 0.3%. Which growing even in the state of Tennessee, even CBD flower, a lot of the CBD flower that we grow, it'll come back at, let's say 18% CBD. THC is at 0.5, 0.6, but Delta 9 is at 0.1 or 0.2. They're even wanting that CBD number of 0.5 or 0.6 to be less than 0.3. So even growing CBD under the USDA guidelines is so hard. So the USDA guidelines at the end of the day are more the industrial, the agriculture, the not growing for smoke, not growing for what we're doing, which was a kind of a battle. So then after they did that in 2022, we lobbied and said, hey, here are the rules that is going to help the hemp industry succeed in the state of Tennessee. And it's going to say in the first line that THCA, along with Delta 8, along with other versions of THC and even stuff like CBN, because CBN is at one point in time THC. To create CBN, you take a THC product, whether the Delta 8 CBN or Delta 9 CBN, flower, any of them, and you just run oxygenation. So essentially you're taking this beautiful clear oil, this beautiful gold oil, and you turn it brown and you oxidize it. And then as you're oxidizing it through a reaction, you create CBN. If you have like a bag of flower and you go put it underneath your car seat for a year and drive around and then go grab it and smoke it, you're going to go to sleep. Why does that happen?
I've done that before.
Yeah, because the cannabis science proves that THC turns into CBN. Now, that flower that you've had in your car underneath the seat for the past 4 years, if you tested it, it would, even if you got it off the street or whatever, or went to Colorado and bought it from somewhere, no matter what it was, after so many years of sitting underneath your car seat, it would no longer be marijuana anymore if it was to begin with. It would not have any THC left in it at all. It would convert to all CBN. So it's odd.
Controlled.
Yeah. So it's really hard to say what time does and what stuff like that does. But at the end of the day, everything's tested. when it's grown. Everything's tested third party before it's sold. Everything's retested in a certain amount of time for consistency. Batch testing for every batch that comes out. We've never had a strain of flower that we bagged last more than a month before it's sold. So every new batch that comes in gets tested. You know, some of the Oreo cookies that we've been doing for a while, cookies and cream we've been doing for a while. Some of those that we've probably in the past 3 years, we're on our at least 6th harvest of the Oreo cookies. So it's like,
those strains just stay.
Yeah. So some of the cookie genetics, we've definitely kept those on with apples and bananas was one of their genetics that we did for a while. And it was a killer when we did great with it for like 6 months, and it just kind of fell off. So we didn't grow that one anymore. But anyways, it's odd that, you know, the interpretations of what all this is, but 2023, we said, if you safeguard THCA and you allow us to continue doing that, what we have been doing in the state of Tennessee, nothing's being altered, nothing's being changed. We just want solidification on the laws that say what we have done and what we will do is okay. If you allow us to do this, we will give you 6% of everything sold at a retail level. And to some of the stuff, and I've learned, like with nicotine products, tobacco products, and beer products and stuff like that, there's so much of this stuff, especially in the tobacco industry, they're only taxed on wholesale. So that pack of cigarettes that you're buying at the retail level was paid tax at a wholesale level. So the fact of it is, if it's marked up for whatever percentage, you know, the taxation they're getting on a wholesale level is way less than what it is final out the door to a customer, versus what we do is 6% of out the door to a customer. So even if it costs us, you know, if you go to a wholesale manufacturing and it costs, you know, $10 to make it, but you sell it for $17 or whatever, you get the full $17 taxation, not the $10 wholesale. So there's some stuff that we've really tried to set up to where we're above and beyond for paying out the state. So far in the state this year, just in the first 6 months of this year, there's around $15 million on that 6% tax only. And everything at 6% is also an additional 9.25. It comes out to be 15.25% on everything that we sell tax wise. So it's like you take that 15 million number and you almost 2.5 times that number almost. And so here's exactly. Well, here's $35 million the first 6 months of the year, Tennessee. This is a great program. Let's keep it up. But then you have the same people, like whenever we come up with that program last year and signed it, about 4 or 5 months later, TBI, TDA, all these guys were kind of like, oh, this is odd. We didn't think that it was going to boom like this. And they had some kickback with it. And then every 6 months, there was kickback from July to October last year. And the October kickback led to this whole emergency meeting that then led to a March meeting where the Department of Ag got together with everybody and I forgot how many, 14,000 some odd or whatever messages sent to them they were supposed to respond to. And they had like 3 months to do so before it went through Secretary of State and all that stuff. For, they
were getting stressed.
Yeah, modifying a bill. That 6 months later, they never responded. Then they come out with the emergency ruling. The emergency ruling that come out in July, August time was just the reiteration of what we did the 12 months before that. It wasn't anything new or different. It was just, hey, don't forget that we want to have a regulated thing in the state of Tennessee. You got to pay your taxes. I can't tell you how many people, store owners, gas stations, smoke shops, that didn't even know there was a 6% tax on it until July of this year. So the fact that from July until the end of this year, when people are actually enforced to pay their taxes and forced to keep things, behind the counter and all the different 21 and up stuff that they weren't even really aware about, like, it's just frustrating that they
really important.
Yeah.
Changes.
Oh, for sure. It's good stuff that we want. It's just like a year went on and then they're like, oh, it's madness. It's out of control. It's like, we tried to help you control it, but you didn't control it. So here we are a year later and they're mad about what happened a year ago. And then as they're starting to make sense of it all, they're starting to slack off. And they're like, actually, you know what? A lot of this actually makes sense. So there's 2 or 3 people that are a little upset about it that want to fight back next session. So then again, another 6 months from now in February or March, be dumping the money into lobbying and talking to the senators, representatives, and all that stuff. And as all the election stuff's coming up this year, this is a really important, really important to see what's happening. So Farm to Med, good local growers here in the state of Tennessee. They grow right here in Hickson. Great folks, Chris Summerall.
Great flower too.
Yeah, and his mom Kathy. There's some of the Kathy Lennon. She's running for representative. I'm mistaken on the district, but 22 or 27. But anyways, like the Saudi Hickson area, she's running for that. So another little something, this is something to throw into. I kind of forgot about it. But next, not this upcoming weekend. This upcoming weekend's Cannabis Fest. So this upcoming weekend's Cannabis Fest. By the time this airs, we might have missed it. But then the next weekend after that, what's that? September 28th, I believe, is we're doing like
air right before Cannabis Fest, actually. So good episode.
Yeah, perfect. And then the following week after
Saturday.
that. Yeah, heck yeah. It's perfect. The Saturday. So following week after that, down at Miller Park in Chattanooga, we got a lot of folks in the cannabis industry, but not just cannabis folks. Just the idea of this election coming up is a very important one. For many different reasons. It's a sad divide between us citizens in America that want the best for everything, but there's so many different ways to get to what we all believe to be the best. Again, education, right? So the meeting that we're going to have on Saturday at Miller Park is going to be about getting registered, getting voters to sign up, talking about where your voting polls, like where you go to vote at, education. There's going to be a couple representatives there that are local to the Chattanooga area to kind of represent who they are and speak about what they do. So that'll be a cool thing for sure, because so much of this does play into the fact of these folks that have been in legislation. There's no term limits on a lot of this stuff. So these people that have been in there for 20 or 30 years or so, they were there during the war on drugs. They were there during this is bad. This is, devil's lettuce. This is bad.
Especially in the South.
And that's what our goal is to break the stigma, to change people's minds, to show them the light, to show them that the something for everybody slogan really plays a fact that anybody could benefit from this, not just the people that are the potheads on the street that don't have a job or whatever. And that's like such the view and the mentality of so many of them. So as we try to change their views and perspectives of who we are as cannabis users in the state of Tennessee, new people are coming along.
The representative.
Yeah.
The representatives get on it too. And we educate them because they need to know that hemp is cannabis. And by supporting the hemp industry, supporting these smaller businesses, it provides an even less restrictive cannabis industry than, say, recreational in New York or recreational in Massachusetts and Connecticut, which is just, they suck the fun out of everything.
Oh, sure.
Out of everything. You can't have anything like we're doing, like the Dragon Lounge, the dab and drink bars, public consumption severely restricted.
Yeah, it's
you can't have anything fun.
Purposely kept in the dark, for sure.
Yeah.
Purposely. Yeah. And that's some of this,
bars,
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like you can go to a bar and you can do shot after shot after shot, and you can leave there, and there's no moderation about are you driving or are you not driving or any of these type of things that are obviously against the law. But the idea of you bring cannabis in, and it's like, oh, it's a whole different. But it's like, what the hell, in my opinion, and a lot of other cannabis opinions, it's safer than a lot of it is an alternative, and in our opinion, a safer alternative. So a lot of the other methods for indulging in imbibing or whatever you want to say, right? So I don't know, it's crazy, but
shameless lemonade
haze. Yeah,
that's so good.
Mm-hmm. It's such a great one for sure. The lemonade haze, I'd put that thing against any canned lemonade on the market anybody offers. It's my favorite lemonade drink that you can get. It's a good one.
I like
for
it
sure.
better than Sprite, honestly. That's the best thing. It was good.
That's awesome.
It's really good. Just something for everybody in education and getting representative and lawmakers like on our side to show them when they pass stuff that strengthens the hemp industry, they create better framework for people consuming THC products, for buying THC products. And it seems like Tennessee's already embraced that even the TBA saying, well, technically THCA is legal as long as you buy it from a reputable source like Snapdragon, with your packaging, your receipt in hand. It's legal. You paid your taxes on it. We paid our taxes on it. Mm-hmm. Lord knows we pay enough. And I honestly think it's a less restrictive industry than, again, medical and recreational cannabis in a lot of states. They just need to
embrace,
like you said, embrace it. Yeah. Kind of close that divide, close that major that major divide that a lot of people are still in the dark about.
Oh, sure.
Not their fault, like you said, but it is still a major divide. Because we'll still get so many customers coming in and saying, well, I thought this was just fake weed.
Oh, yeah.
And I tried a 10 milligram gummy and I was, stoned.
No, without a doubt. And that's one of the things that, every day. And it's like, it's a little trigger for me because I've worked so hard to build what we've got. Right. But when I hear people, somebody I met at, I was at Walmart the other day and I was talking to somebody and I was wearing, I've got some like shoes with like, pot leaves on them or whatever. and sometimes I wear shirts that, Snapdragon shirts or what, I'm sometimes eccentric with what I wear as far as like, well, that guy does, he does cannabis. Right. So, people come up to me and it's like, oh, what do you do? And it's all, I make products. We got retail stores in Chattanooga, do Snapdragon Hemp. And oh, that's cool. I smoke, but I always get my stuff from, my buddy on the street or whatever. And I'm like, it's like, I don't like the D8, it gives me a headache. And it's like, having to explain, it's like, well, there's a lot of different ways to make D8, but D8 is an option for people. But at the end of the day, everything that we offer is no different than what you would get in a California, Colorado, Oregon type dispensary. You want
exact
flower, it's on par. And since I'm the purchaser of these things and the sourcer of who's growing them and stuff, I feel like we do a better job than a lot of other folks do that are just the mass marketed, no matter what, they're going to, last time I went to a California dispensary, little iPad setup. It was a nice setup, looked cool. When I clicked on pre-rolls, I think there was 157 different pre-rolls they offered that were there. And, all different brands, all different flavors, sizes, strengths, potencies, connoisseur, regulars or whatever. And then when I was asking the person that was working, I was like, which ones are the best? And they're all about the same. They're all good. People like this brand or this brand, but they cost more or whatever. So I got a couple of the cheaper ones. And it was like, $12 a pre-roll. And I got one of the connoisseurs, like $24 a pre-roll, which is like right on par with what we charge for stuff. And, is it better? It's same. You know what I mean? So it's not like we're trying to create an inferior market. We're trying to do the best that we can in our market by, going above and beyond. So.
And so one argument I hear a lot when people go to Colorado or Oregon dispensaries, they say to me, well, Alec, this pre-roll says 28% THC, ours says THCA. Explain the difference. And I go, they factored in decarboxylation already on the label. So basically that flower is maybe 30% THCA or 32% THCA. And then after decarboxylation goes down to 28% or 27%. So a lot of Colorado, Oregon dispensaries will put 27% THC on the label. And I think that's kind of crazy because it like skips over why THCA is important and what makes cannabis. And like you said, it's the same exact thing. When you boil it down, it's still a 28% THCA strain, converting into 25% active Delta-9 THC. The same thing you would get in Colorado and Oregon and New York and Massachusetts, all these legal states. Yeah. The same exact thing, except it can be shipped to your door.
Oh, sure. There's definitely been a handful of times. I visit Oregon the most, so Oregon's kind of my go-to for dispensary stuff. I've been to California this year and Colorado and all that stuff as well too, but Oregon's my go-to. Anyways, there has been a couple times where I've purchased something in Oregon, unknowing, just I want this pre-roll, this looks good, and I want that flower. I like that strain name, right? Like the lamb's bread. Sativa dominant stuff is always a hard find, yes. Especially some landrace strains. So if I ever go somewhere,
we have some great ones right now.
Yeah. No, we've been doing some good with some sativas, and that's one of the things. Customer demands on stuff. The sativas have been in high demand since this summer, and I can't. One of the things that so many people have talked to me about is that. We have some heavy hitter indicas, like the 9-pound hammer, for example. It's a hitter. It's a strong, 5 minutes later, you're like, I don't want to do nothing, but I'm good. but for a lot of people that do the indicas, especially people that are like the ADHD stuff, they smoke a heavy indica and then they're like, their whole personalities change because they're not the uplifted person, the want to do something. So they don't enjoy that. And then if they don't enjoy it and then you think about it too much, then you have the paranoia, a little bit of anxiety or whatnot. And then it's like, well, every time I smoke an indica, I just have a weird feeling. And then however that feeling is described is based on the person, on how they describe it, but it's usually similar versus the sativas.
It's always case by case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Versus that sativa overall, it's not as usually a heavy of a hit. Still the same roughly THC percentages, but it's all in how how can sativa be 27% and indica be 27%, and you smoke each one of them and they both offer different effects? Well, this is natural cannabis science, terpenes, flavonoids. If something's 27%, what's the other 73%? So that's the cannabis science that we know and love and take a lot of pride in, for sure. But anyways, the sativa stuff is more of like, I can smoke it, I can enjoy it, I can still live my life, I'm still me, but I'm in a better state of mind or whatever. So I've heard that no less than 3 or 4 times. And all of them at the Dragon, the past couple of weeks at the Dragon, I've had some people come in and like our cannabis lounge where you can, smoke and partake on premise or whatnot. And I've got a lot of that from there. So neat to hear. But overall, we definitely see the big trend in the sativa stuff. So some of the cool stuff when you go out west is neat to get. The Landrace strains that are like, you don't see often. But anyway, so
Urban Poison it right now.
Yeah,
strain.
Urban Poison is a good one. But the last time I got some lamb's bread, it come back and on the label, and the one I did go to, it was a bag, a 3.5 gram bag of it, and on the back of the label had the QR code that went to the test results. I click on it and look at it, but even underneath it, it said THCA, THC, CBDA, CBD, and it had all 4 popular cannabinoids that's usually in cannabis strains, all individually tested out. I think
like that.
Yeah, THCA was like 24, 25 or whatever. And then the Delta 9 THC aspect of it was like 0.27, and the CBD was like 0.3, and the regular CBD was around the same, like 0.3, 0.4 or whatever. So it was neat to see that, like, well, technically this is a sub 0.3% Delta 9 product. So in the state of Tennessee, it would be a legal hemp product. So even stuff like that's neat to see.
A nerd freak out whenever I find dispensary labels that I'm like, this could be hemp.
Yeah, I know, right?
To all of my friends. And it kind of justifies what I do for a living, because I'm like, I'm not just crazy. Is it just look at this dispensary label. This is literally the same flower. It's just under 0.3%.
Mm-hmm. And so
all it requires.
Yeah, and a lot of that, like when I was talking to Chris, I went to Farm and Med last week, and we picked up some of his flower. He just finished a grow called the King or the Kings. We picked up.
I saw the COAs for that. Yeah.
Beautiful stuff, man. Beautiful stuff. So he gave us, just like a standard grower should. Here's your pre-harvest test, less than 0.3. Here's your final potency test, still less than 0.3 Delta 9. But THC was, do you remember what the King was on that one? I forgot what the King was.
Sent it to me, and I can actually pull it up right now.
Mid-20s, I'd say. Mid-20s, low 20s. But
it's a 24% THCA, 21% total THC.
Nice. Good 21.
0.165% D9. And it's even got a minor amount of THCVA.
Oh, that's cool.
Be a little stimulating.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of CBGA and CBG to it too.
Nice. That's neat with the THCV. And that is one of their things. Actually, one of the strains they grow, it's this beautiful 1-to-1 CBD and CBDV, which is real cool if you don't want to be high, but you just want to have a good relaxed day, but kind of focused or whatnot. The CBDV is a good option for that one. So it's neat to see that some of the V aspects are, and it's all, the way people grow, the genetics behind stuff, nutrient cycles, light cycles. They do a little extra job to kind of over on the lights. They do high powered lights, old HPSs, and just standard, old, double-ended, old school lights or whatever. So a lot of power usage or whatnot, but some of that stuff can offer things that that some of the newer LEDs or whatnot can't. So they take a lot of pride in their thought process behind the growing. So that is neat to see the THCV part about it, because that's something that probably overall might be a hybrid, but I would say would probably going to lean, once you smoke that, a little more sativa dominant than indica. So that's cool to see.
It'll be a little bit more clear mentally, but CBDV also has shown a lot of promise in its anti-epilepsy effects. So you might even want to look at that strain if you've tried CBD and it doesn't benefit your epilepsy at all. Try something like CBDV or even CBDA, because either of those cannabinoids have been documented to be a little bit better than CBD in some cases. And it just depends on everybody, but I really like the fact that you can get these 1-to-1s, you can get these mixed ratio flowers mainly through hemp. You can't really find 1-to-1s reliably in dispensaries, medical and recreational dispensaries. but sometimes that's what people depend on the most is the one-to-one THCA to CBDA balanced strains, or even strains high in CBGA or even higher in CBDA. And you can't really find those strains at Med-Rec dispensaries. It's another point that hemp offers even more than what everyone's idea of legal cannabis, is going to bring to the table. It's like you get some flower, cool, but do you know the genetics? Do you know the cannabinoid profile? Do you know the terpene profile? Are you able to get different cannabinoids in your flower reliably? Because usually that's just a one-off. It's like, oh, I got this one-to-one like Harlequin strain, and then you smoke it, it's all gone. They never have any more.
Never.
And it's gone. Whereas a lot of hemp stores, Flow Gardens particularly, they had an amazing one-to-one body odor berries.
Ooh.
And they stocked that consistently. They grew that consistently. They loved it, and they loved the feedback they were getting from the one-to-ones. I think we've had some one-to-ones before. I think we had a lot of CBD flower.
Yeah, we did
just that variety.
Yeah, the back in the day, our top one-to-one was we had the sweetened was a one-to-one, and the Franklin was close. The Franklin was a 2-to-1. I think it was like 12 THC and 6 CBD. So the Franklin was definitely
it started it all.
Yeah, it started a whole cult on Reddit. The cult of the Franklin.
Still going to this day.
Yeah.
Some of our affiliates in Snapdragon are still part of the Cult of Franklin community. They have websites. So if you guys are watching this from Cult of Franklin, please drop some love in the YouTube comments, because that's been like the craziest community to come out of, legal cannabis. Just the Franklin community, all about this, and it was like dirt, right, Josh? It was like,
it wasn't the best. It was all outdoor grown in northern Alabama, southern Tennessee. It was a couple growers had the same genetics, but it was and that was a little odd too. Yeah, depending on who got the Franklin, because we got a bunch of Franklin. Hemp House got a bunch of Franklin. There were some bigger players that bought a bunch from these farms. They just grew outdoor. I mean, thousands upon thousands of pounds. The two growers did, but there's all the differences between how the processing and all the trimming and all that happened or whatever. But anyways, the Franklin days were fun, because that was again, Tennessee allowed, if you grow and it's below 0.3 Delta 9 THC, you're good. So Franklin was a good to go. Right. But once you send that out to a third party analysis test and it comes back, well, it's 12% THCA, 6% CBDA, no Delta 9. So 2019 it boomed, and it started a whole market for this online in 2019. So that was really fun.
Yeah, it all started, honestly, the crack in the dam, and that's even where I got my start with Snapdragon, was reviewing some of the early THCA products on Reddit and Delta 8 products. So that's where I got my start with you guys, was just by reviewing these products. And everyone had pounds of Franklin. I'm sure people still do have pounds of Franklin in their closet.
I'm sure.
And it's just
the hoard.
Really range. Honestly, they're like, it's 17% THCA. I'm like, you've had it for like 4 years now. It's CBN.
Yeah, I know.
Just talked about. Yeah. They're like, damn it. Some people, you could keep it in your freezer. I'm sure that would slow that decarboxylation a little bit.
Oh, sure. But at the end of the day, it's like, you can't go out to any fruit or vegetable and harvest it. And you can't, how long is a peach going to last for at the end of the day? You could freeze it and you can put some sugar on it. But at the end of the day, all these things that we do are, you're limited on the time of nature. So
fresh produce.
Yeah.
Cannabis is a fresh produce market.
Yep.
Even down to concentrates and edibles and stuff. Everything has an expiry date, whether it's through COAs expiring or through the cannabinoids, like you said, just degrading, because a lot of people don't think of it. Cannabis is a little bit like a radioactive isotope, where it's going to lose potency. It's going to change over time. So we have to keep consistently source, which we have been, in my opinion, even better flower than the last harvest.
Yeah.
So every harvest has to outdo itself.
Oh, for
every product launch has to outdo itself, because you're offering what's most fresh, what's most cutting edge, what's most exciting. That's also another reason why I just love working in this industry. It's so just everything is new.
Oh, sure.
New and fresh.
Well, and that's what's so much about the controlled cannabis, like the Rex and the Med that's been going on for so many years, is they've lost their innovation. 10 years ago, whenever it come out, and in some of the places, have in the past 6 years or whatnot have come out, but they're just going off old standards, not like, how do we do something better? How do we do it different? How do we do whatever? It's not about that. It's about the consistent product. How do we make the same exact thing, the same thing every time? Not that it's the best thing, but just the exact same for a million of these gummies. And a lot of it's the distillation, the purification, and just most of these places will be like, well, our THC is 99%, and we take this 99% THC and we make all our products with it. The same thing with like CBD back in the early hemp days. Whenever I started in, everything was just pure CBD, nothing else. THC free. It's just CBD. It's just CBD. And I'm like, there's all this science that we've learned in cannabis to say that just CBD is not the best. Just THC is not the best. There's so many, the flavonoids, terpenes, the CBG, the CBN, the combination of all of them. If you take a drink that's just THC and a 10 milligram drink, you have a great time, perfect. If you, the next day, try a 10 milligram drink that has 4 milligrams of CBD in there, you're going to have a completely different experience. It's not going to be just heady. It'll be head to toe. You feel more relaxed. It's a whole different something. So, these folks that the synergy and magic, that's what we love. And the small batch idea, because that's really what we're doing. We're small batching things as a small company, but we've learned how to small batch stuff and scale it up to where we're at now. But, a lot of the other folks are like, well, if I can save $1 doing it this way, and I can not have to worry about potential error, because potential error doing small batch does come out. Like some stuff is 68% THC whenever we make gummies. Some is 78, some is 88, some is 72, some is 82. And if we don't batch test every single one, you'll end up with, these gummies didn't work that good for me. And it's like, well, we won't have that happen. So, it is harder to do what we do, but it's better. So some of those things about it for sure.
It's just on par with how dispensaries are operating in legal states where they're forced to, which is another thing that is just crazy. People don't know the difference, and they don't know how much science goes into this. And also comparing to legal dispensaries, I don't like to toot my own horn, but we seem to have better education about cannabis and about all of the cannabinoids and all the flavonoids and terpenes, the general composition of the plant, the genetics going into our favorite strains. We have a better understanding of that than I've had experience with going into recreational dispensaries, even medical dispensaries, and trying to get a personalized experience out of that.
Oh, sure.
One of the main things we teach is personal experiences with cannabis, because there's not one best cannabis product.
Yeah, and everybody is so different too. So there's the variables.
Everybody's so different.
Yeah.
There's so many variables to consider, and I haven't actually seen that in like used at all in any dispensary that I've been to, except for ours, because that's what I teach to everybody. Is you cannot just say, oh, that 10 milligram gummy is going to be great for everybody. It might be great for a lot of people because that's like a starting dose.
Yeah, you're not wrong for sure.
It seems like that's all the budtenders know is just THC and CBD, and they're not going to give you an even more in-depth education about what makes cannabis special, what are these other cannabinoids, because there's like an alphabet soup that we talked about, CBN and CBG and CBDA and THCA. It seems like rec and med dispensaries only talk about THC and CBD when that's only 2/1000ths of the entire plant. Oh, yeah. It's so complex and so crazy that the education needs to be a level up, and much different than just weed.com said, CBD will cure your cancer or cure your tumor. That's snake oil salesman tactics, and we stay so far away from that with our research of cannabis, I feel.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong for sure. So it's definitely wild to see. Like even me, when I go to dispensary and you feel like you ask them questions, it's just cookie cutter set up, so it's just different. Well, here's the top sellers and I like this brand. So
it's safe. And a lot of those people are pharmacy technicians that transferred into the cannabis industry because the only reason being it's lucrative. Really, they're just making a lot more money than they would being a pharmacist. And I can't say that for, every single state but I know that in Nevada and especially in like Las Vegas and other places where it's more seen as party-esque, the people don't know cannabis science. They don't. And even taking that little course I took, the Cannabis Healthcare and Medicine course, opened my eyes to, okay, it's not really just about THC and CBD. It's not even just about the terpenes. It's about the entire complex plant working together, different strains, different genetics, different compounds, different people taking it, especially.
Oh, without a doubt. And that's one of the good things I really should highlight, because you dedicated some time, like university training. Kind of let us know some about the courses and classes that you've been able to do, because this is, again, something that, 5 or 10 years ago, this wasn't even a thing. There was no classes for education about this. It was kind of like, it's what's behind the door. We're going to keep it back behind the door. But now that people are starting to like wanting to be educated and wanting to know more, and then as you were saying, the pharmacy technicians at these dispensaries, that's been really cool. That some of the states like the Nevadas and I believe the Michigans, but some of the more recent places have set some standards where if you are a bud tender in this state, you have to have, similar to what an ABC card would be in the state of Tennessee for serving alcohol, you have to have an accreditation to say that you're trained and you're knowledgeable and you know about these things and whatnot. So that's been neat to kind of see. But only a couple states compared to how many there are have done that.
Right.
So,
and as we saw last week, there are a lot of businesses like that don't have any accreditation at all. They don't have anything like college certified. Maybe they'll have a really obscure like certification process, but they'll try to sell that to other people. And when I went through the Cannabis Healthcare and Medicine course, just honestly in hopes to be a better, more effective educator for Snapdragon, I realized it reinforced a lot of the stuff that I already knew. And then it painted everything in a more digestible way. It's like much less through the lens of people who have been in the industry for years and they call things what they call things. This is like a really science, really directed, very meticulous approach to cannabis. And there's a validity to both, just the seasoned stoner who's been smoking and growing and consuming the same stuff they have been for years, and the nerdy shit about cannabis that really goes into like the terpenes and the molecules we were talking about. So I think we try to bridge that gap. We want to work with the stoners who honestly don't really care or want to learn too much more about the science. They're like, I like really good
thing. Yeah.
Want the really strongest thing. And it's like we come at them and try to meet them in the middle and tell them there's a reason why you want the strongest things. And here's what makes it so strong for you. It's not just about THC percentage is 30%. It's because this strain has a dominant amount of linalool or caryophyllene that your body really responds to, because some of your favorite strains are like earthy, spicy, peppery strains, Kush strains. And they're looking for more, laughter and euphoric. You're going to go higher in terpenoline and farnesene, and you're going to go high in limonene and pinene when you want that kind of like up but focused, or a little bit of that pain relief, but still feeling light and giggly. It's all about the terpenes, and they don't offer this education a lot in rec or med dispensaries, I've noticed. And
it's such an important aspect of it, because it's the fact that whenever you leave with this product that you're going to partake in, are you going to be happy with it or are you not going to be happy with it? And it's like, it's the truth, so it's hard. There's
also no customer service for a lot of those dispensaries.
Yeah. Oh, sure. So then
you have live chat.
Yeah, exactly. The live chat, Alec on the live chat. Yeah. So some of that's definitely a big part of it for sure. Just the fact, crazy differences.
It really is. But that's where we try to cut out the middleman, and we try to be the leading edge of cannabis as federally legal hemp. And people still question that. They're like, how can you be at the forefront of cannabis if you're hemp? It's because they're missing that key education point. Hemp is cannabis. Mm-hmm. Simple facts can change literally everything about your perception of this plant.
Oh, sure. It's just, time and time again, we've seen you know, what people think they want. And the customer often the times never really knows exactly what they want. They think they know what they want, or at least the direction that they're going to go towards. But then the understanding of getting pointed to the right product. And that's just the biggest game changer. The amount of folks that have tried something in another store and it wasn't what they wanted, they weren't happy with it, versus they tried this product and were happy with it, and then continually get this product or whatever, or a version of it, versus like, I've definitely been to dispensaries and bought pre-rolls before and have been completely unhappy with the product. And then you go back and what's the solution? Well, we have 170 options. Sorry you didn't like that one.
Oh, sorry, Josh. It's cutting out.
Yeah. Buy another one or
Mike's
whatever.
cutting out again.
Oh, cutting out on your end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's go through. You said you've been to like 100 other dispensaries.
Yeah. Well, when you go to a dispensary and you like, if I purchase a pre-roll and I'm unhappy with the quality of it, the idea is it's not like there's no customer service about that. It's like, well, we have 150 other versions of pre-rolls. Try another one, and you'll just try another one. Are you happy? Who knows? You try another one. Are you happy? Who knows? And a lot of people give up.
That's like a guessing.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of like $12 each, and you know, you get one or two of them a week to try out or whatever, and then you know, months later, eventually you give up if you don't find what you're looking for. And then eventually you're like, well, this isn't for me. I'm not a cannabis person. But is it that you're not a cannabis person, or is it that you haven't found what works for you yet? And that's I take so much joy in that. Like whenever somebody's like hating on it forever, I tried it when I was younger. I tried it as an adult. I tried it at a party or whatever, and I just never enjoyed it. And then we're like, let's try some microdose stuff. And you point them to some of the 3 and 5 milligram things, and they're like, oh man, I feel great, but I'm still like a person. This is amazing, you know, versus you get the people that come in that, yeah. And then there's this one guy that came into the Dragon last week, and he was like, I've got a high tolerance. It's so strong. He's like, and we asked him, he's like, I went to one of your stores and I bought the 250 brownie before. And as soon as he said that 250 brownie puts me on my ass anytime I take it. So he said that, and we started them out just a 50 milligram shot. Just here's a shot of 50 milligrams. And then we waited about 15, 20 minutes. It was like, how you feeling? He's like, you know, I'm feeling okay, but not really where I want to be. Here's another one. And then I think he ended up taking 200 milligram that day. Went and took his dog for a walk, come back, and had a great time and all that. And then he come back the next day. And the next day we started him right off with a 300 milligram drink. So there's the people that are like, if they take more than 5 milligram, they're having a horrible time. But then there's these folks that have no problem down in 300 milligram. And then that's when they're taking their dog for a walk and enjoying and living life, you know? So it's so neat to see the differences, and it's so different for everybody. And, you know, it's a little, it hurts sometimes to hear folks. It's like, well, it's not for me. Well, it can be. It's just, you know, what is right for you, and then kind of nailing that down or whatever. So,
right. We have a plant that's like attuned to the human body already. It's somehow, some way, it produces these compounds that fit in our endocannabinoid system like keys to locks. And I think that's such a magical aspect of cannabis that like it will work with your body no matter who you are, genetically, biologically. It does not matter. Even if you're, you know, a dog or a cat, so many different life forms have endocannabinoid system. It's not just mammals. Most of living things on the earth have an endocannabinoid system.
Just speaking about the pets real quick, you brought that up. That's something that we probably never even really covered on here, but the success that we've seen with the pets is amazing. At the end of the day, your body's response, your pet's body's response to something wrong is inflammation. Once your body starts to inflame in an area, it can't really heal the way that it's supposed to heal, because your body's not what is inflammation. Inflammation is saying, hey, something's wrong, brain, something's wrong. I'm gonna make you feel it. You're gonna know something's wrong, fix it. And then you take it easy, you take rest, you take some medicine, whatever, you start to do better, the inflammation goes away and you're back to who you were. That's your body's response to just let you know something's wrong. But a lot of times the inflammation, just a lot of times when inflammation occurs, it's like, it's not really per se, you know.
Mike's still cutting out. I don't know why.
Oh yeah. Hopefully it's just on your end, but,
is it?
I hope so. Technical difficulties as we see, but
a little bit.
I think so, but this would be our first time doing a remote in on the podcast, as we've had a couple technical difficulties through this episode, but next times will always be better. But But I do believe it's on your end. But yeah, just anyways, inflammation as an idea for how it pertains to pets and stuff like that. And your pet can't tell you something's wrong, but you can tell, and they're limping and stuff like that. And the anti-inflammatory properties that CBD can provide for not just us, but our furry friends and stuff like that. It can work wonders from the anxiety aspects to just the older dogs with the pain and hip dysplasia and stuff like that. I can't tell you how many and that's such a rewarding feeling too. It's like somebody's had their pet for 12 years or so and loves their animal, but hates to see it, struggling with the inflammation issues that's occurring as it ages, versus what CBD can help with in a natural, holistic way rather than, surgery and whatnot, stuff like that, or having
surgery and medication.
Or a lot of times, veterinarians are so different. Some veterinarians will try to, 10 grand surgery we'll try, 10 grand surgery we'll try, versus, hey, it's $100. We'll have to put your animal down that you love so much. But it's the amount of times that we've seen folks on that last straw of torn between a decision between having to put their animal down versus do something they can't afford with no guaranteed outcome at the end of it, where the outcome could also be death whenever you're talking about surgeries on animals. So surgeries in general have a failure rate, right? But the rewarding aspects of over the years, the amount of folks that have gotten another year or two life out of their friend that they've known for so long, their companion that's been like
even less pain.
Yeah, even those
better
things.
Appetite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of rewarding aspects, not even just with people, but just with every aspect of it. So it's a fun one.
With animals too.
Yeah.
And the endocannabinoid system, like I said, is pretty universal amongst living. I think only some invertebrate don't have endocannabinoid systems, but they have receptors that are similar anyways. I think even lobsters have endocannabinoid systems. Don't quote me on that, but I need to look into it.
That's it. Cannabis lobster, we need it.
I know, lobster CBD. We need it. Let's market it.
I like it.
Let's market it. It's a universal experience, like using cannabis, and like you said, something for everybody. So just knowing that cannabis, or at least a compound in cannabis, can have an effect on literally everybody, whether that's CBD or CBG or Delta-9 THC or Delta-8. All of these things can affect people. And it's like, what levels? Because some people who say they hate getting high, they're so anxious about getting high. What if they tried, like you said, 5 milligrams, or just a little bit?
The micro doses. Oh, yeah.
Right. And that's what I do too, to increase my tolerance. Because without a tolerance, THC, it makes me like trip out. It's like super intense for me. So I have to be like Snoop Dogg at the Olympics, just chiefing every day to get my tolerance up. And that actually works. It's like exercising a muscle. I always tell people your endocannabinoid system, your tolerance is like a muscle. So just because you're freaked out about taking a hit off a joint today doesn't mean that if you start a regimen and you continually microdose and you build your sensitivity and your tolerance to cannabis products, that one toke of a joint isn't going to freak you out in a month after you've had this regimen, had this, consistent experience taking cannabis. Everyone, then you get the opposite problem is your tolerance is too high and now you need 100 milligrams, but and some people might need 5,000. It's just up to that individual.
5,000 might be a little wild, but I'm sure somebody out there
That'd be crazy. I've heard it.
Yeah, I mean,
I've heard it.
I've seen probably even maybe more intense than doing a whole 5,000 is some of these smokes. I've seen people do like the fat dabs, like a dab is where you heat up the concentrate, so just like raw 80% pure THC concentrate, and it boils at 350, 400 degrees or so. So they'll set their device to 500 degrees. No matter what they put in there, it flashes and evaporates off, and the evaporation that you get is the smoke of THC from the concentrate. And some of these videos out there, people. Like even when I smoke, it's hard for me to clear like a fat dab. Like I got to take a break and come back to it. But some of these folks, yeah. Some of these folks, man, you'll see them. They'll just take like a glob, like 1 or 2 full grams, and dump it in there, and it's just like it clouds up the whole room. You can't even see the camera no more.
They're like hanging it. They're like the bangers down here. They're hanging it up here. It's just slowly lowering it into the banger. Yeah, crazy.
So
crazy. I don't know. how do those people don't have collapsed lungs?
So yeah, from all spectrums, from the micro to the Mac Daddy or whatever, something for everybody. But yeah, it is one of those things where you do build up the tolerance about it and stuff like that. And there are so many folks that I'll build up my tolerance as well too. The biggest thing for me, like if I do like 100 milligram can of drink or can of Bliss, or if I do a 250 milligram edible, that next day, if I do something, it does not hit me the same. And kind of the same thing for a few days after. It's just kind of like, well, it's not what I'm looking for because my tolerance got, train wrecked a couple of days ago over the weekend or whatever. So quite often I'll take like a Monday through Wednesday. I won't partake of anything, and then I'm good to go again by Thursday.
Working in the industry, I see, at Red Bank, you get just like samples from everybody. Everybody in the hemp industry that's alive and breathing has sent Josh samples, and I've seen them piled up, and it's like, you got to test them. You got to see what's crappy, what's good, and your tolerance just naturally climbs that way too.
Oh, sure. No, without a doubt. So fun day of cannabis education. It's been so cool, and definitely glad to have you on here, Alec, and just kind of highlighting, because that is one of the questions that so many people have is, what is the difference between a hemp dispensary and a cannabis dispensary or a marijuana dispensary? Where is this vagueness from, and what does that look like? And then what does it look like state to state? And at the end of the day, Tennessee is on par. Their hemp dispensaries are going to be on par with a cannabis dispensary that's in Oregon doing rec or med. So it's neat to see, and trying to showcase to the viewers and everybody in the state. So just educating folks. It was such a highlight the other week when the guy from the TBI said THCA is THC. When you take THCA and you light it and smoke it, it's the same thing. So it's like, here's a public broadcast about, they know what's going on, but it's written in the rules about what it is, but there's a taxation about it. So it's like,
right,
and just the biggest highlight of that is still the smart consumers. Be a smart consumer. Don't go into a store and buy some pre-rolls and then walk outside in your car and chief it up and then drive over the speed limit, or first of all, you shouldn't be driving high, because something bad could happen, and your insurance probably going to cover it because you're under the influence of something. You're probably going to go to jail, and there's going to be, you can't be under the influence of anything, even if you're prescribed medication, and you took your medication that morning. There's a lot of, it's just the vagueness about all this stuff, So it's like, there's a right and wrong way. Be a smart consumer. But at the end of the day, in the state of Tennessee, we have solidified the fact that you can purchase THC in stores. You can pay a 15.25% sales tax on your product to the state, and they are happy to take the money as long as everything is done and tested, manufactured in Tennessee, tested in Tennessee, and sold in Tennessee. You are following the law. You're following the rules that have been wrote and signed by the governor in 2023. So safeguarded without a doubt. Be a smart consumer. If you have it in your car and you get pulled over, show the cops everything's fine. You're good to go. But if you're showing to the cop and it's a half smoked blunt, that's another problem. So
that is be a smart consumer about it. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing with rec and med states. It's the exact same policies. It's like, you have to have your cannabis in a glove box, or in a container away from you. You cannot access. And I think the smell of cannabis is something else for cops. I don't know if it's still probable cause in Tennessee, but in Connecticut it's not. So I don't even think you get tried if your car reeks of weed, but if you're visibly under the influence,
if your eyes are red, they're not. I mean, at the end of the day, because it's on the cop side of stuff, if I'm a police officer and I pull somebody over because they're driving odd, or there's a reason I pulled them over to begin with, right? I didn't just pull a random car over. So you pull somebody over because they're driving odd or whatever, and you go to the window. First, it smells like weed. Second, their eyes are bloodshot red. If I let that person go and that person hits somebody else, that cop's fucked. Yeah. You can't let somebody, at the end of the day, you can't let somebody continue to drive under the influence of something. If something bad happens, the cops should have had the duty to stop that, or prevent maybe potential loss of life that happened because somebody was driving under the influence. Same thing with alcohol. If you pull somebody over and you think they're drinking, it's irresponsible of the cop to let that person go without a blowing this thing, the BAC, blood alcohols, sobriety test and all that stuff. So if the cop lets somebody go because they wanted to be cool, even though they were drunk, if something happens, that cop is not doing his duty. So we want the cops to keep everybody safe, because it's not about this person that's high on the road. We don't want them to be, doing this to begin with. But if something happens to somebody else and, jeopardizing somebody else's life or whatever, we don't want that either. I would hate to get hit by somebody that wasn't paying attention, but quite often the times, the people that are a little on the higher side are usually the ones that are driving real slow. It's like, speed limit's 50. Why are you going so fast? It's like, I was only doing 35. What the hell? So I
was traveling through space and time, officer. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I know, right? So, we want everybody to be safe. We don't want no harm to come of it, because if anything bad happens, it just hurts us as the industry and what we're trying to push forward, breaking the stigma. That this can be done safely. This can be done supervised. This can be done by smart consumers the appropriate way. We don't want access to kids. We don't want access for all that type of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we want done in the right way. So we're on board by having it done the right way. We're on board with testing is testing and all that stuff. It's just, at the end of the day, you can't go to Colorado, walk out of a dispensary, and even smoke a disposable on the street. That's illegal. You can't smoke one in your car. That's illegal. There's just
public consumption. That those little caveats they definitely get you there, because otherwise people just think like, oh, it's a weed free for all in Oregon and Colorado, and it's not. It's very heavily regulated. Yeah, as is across the board.
Yeah, no, it's definitely in Colorado for sure. They go above and beyond by even having to have security on the outside that will watch you leave the dispensary and get in your car. And if you open that bag up, he will come up to you and say something. So they do a good job out there. Oregon's a little wild. Did you know that nothing is illegal in Oregon?
Nothing.
Nothing. Everything's decriminalized in Portland. So you could have
psilocybin and all that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Psilocybin, anything, like even hard drugs. It's all, so Oregon's kind of a free for all out there, but still at the end of the day, the laws are the laws, but they don't really have police out there. It's weird. They've defunded the police, decriminalized everything. And, if you call the police, unless there's an emergency happening, it's wild. So the crazy stories.
All I need to know about Oregon, I just watched Portlandia.
Boy, yeah. Yeah, Oregon's wild. I do enjoy it though, but Oregon is wild out there for sure. But that's where the growers at overall, because the Humboldt, the Northern California stuff, that's always been, over the past 20 or 30 years, probably I would assume 80% of everything that America has had, and everything would have been on the black market at that point in time, has come from Northern California, because their climate out there is great. They can grow year round. So Oregon's kind of taken over a lot of the reins in that, now that California has went to more of a controlled type method. And then some of the Wild West people in Northern California, a lot of the Chinese coming in doing crazy stuff. So it's wild to see. But anyways, I think I lost Alec. Oh, Alec, we still didn't do the outro, Alec. What the heck? You can wave. Alec, it has been a great podcast with you. Thumbs down, thumbs up. It's been a great podcast with you, Alec. It's been so informational. The education that we're able to provide and doing stuff like this consistently is so great. I really love the clips that we get off of this. So being able to kind of highlight, well, here's what this looks like, and a quick little intro, so you don't have to watch the whole podcast on those type of things or whatever. So I really appreciate you coming on, Alec, and talking to us next week on the podcast. Sure it'll be something fun. So check back next week. And thanks for tuning in to Yes, It's Legal.